Good evening to all our participants from Singapore, South Korea, and of course from Taiwan. I'm extremely happy to have to hold this event today. We have many participants. It's one of our largest online seminars throughout this year. Well, today we are talking about research opportunities in Germany. The topic of our talk will be research in Germany, how to write a research proposal and apply for a PhD. So the first steps towards going to Germany to proceed your PhD studies. Today's event will be mainly hosted by three persons. Me, Josef Goldberger, I'm working for DAAD. I'm heading the local information center in Taipei. Then Mr. Reinhard Klein-Arendt, who is doing science consulting for ProWiss, which is a German institution. And Dr. Angela Müller, who is working for TU Darmstadt for the institution Ingenium. And together we'll introduce you to your track, to your way towards doing a PhD in Germany. Maybe I can ask my colleagues to also open their camera so we can greet them. It's noon now in Germany, so they cannot have lunch in order to inform you about how to study in Germany, how to proceed your PhD studies in Germany. The way how we thought about today's event is that I first give you a short introduction on the research landscape in Germany. Where can you do research? Where can you proceed your PhD studies? And then, of course, I give you a few hints on scholarship opportunities, as DAAD is a scholarship organization. We are one of the providers for scholarships. But then we mainly talk about how to apply, how to write your research proposal. That will be a task of Dr. Klein-Arendt, who is going to train you to talk about what you have to focus on when doing your research proposal, when you apply for a PhD with your supervisor in Germany. And to get out of theory and to make everything a little bit more concrete, we finally will take the example of one university, in this case TU Darmstadt. TU Darmstadt is one of the very famous, very well and renowned universities in Germany, a member of the TU9 association. And we will explain from the perspective from one single university how the application procedures at that institution will work. Okay, so I will start with my part. So I will talk about research in Germany and scholarship opportunities. My name is Josef Goldberger, and I'm working for DAAD. DAAD, German Academic Exchange Service, Deutscher Akademischer Austauschdienst, a very long German word, is a very old institution. We have been established in the year 1925, so we have now something like 96 years of history. And throughout the years, we became a very large institution. Nowadays, we have representational offices in more than 60 countries, just like the office I'm heading here in Taipei. Sorry, the numbers here are wrong. The Taipei office was founded in 2000, in the year 2000. I just found this mistake. So we have 20 years of history in Taipei. Our major task is to support our German university in attracting good, qualified international students to come to Germany. At the same time, we support German students to go abroad to conduct their research and their studies abroad in different countries. We are representing more than 240 member universities all over the world. In order to attract talented students from Germany to go abroad and international students to come to Germany, we are issuing scholarships. As a matter of fact, we are the largest scholarship organization in Germany. Throughout history, according to our statistics from 1950 to 2018, we already have supported more than almost 1.5 million German researchers and students to conduct research and studies abroad, and more than 1 million foreigners to visit Germany to do their research or their studies in Germany. These are very, very large numbers. Okay, if we look at the German research landscape, especially if you're considering doing a PhD in Germany, of course, the most important institutions are the universities. You always will have some kind of affiliation to a university. Usually you will do your research directly at a university in Germany. Sometimes you might be doing most of the research work within industry or other research institution, but you always will have an affiliation to a university. Your research supervisor, in German we call it Doktorvater, will be a professor, will be working at a university. But of course, as I said, you can do your research at a non-university research institute. Only your final degree will be awarded by the university. And of course, you also can conduct your research in the industry. Very often the industry is supporting research, also financing research, but still you will have a professor who is working at a university and who will also award your final degree. Okay, the German research landscape is, as a matter of fact, quite confusing to a foreigner. Because maybe you know, Germany is, as a matter of fact, in terms of population, the largest country within the European Union. It has a strong economy, and therefore it also has a very, very strong research landscape. This means many different institutions who take part in this research landscape. And if you are new to this, it might be quite confusing. I try to explain it in terms of money. Where does the funding come from? A lot of research funding, as a matter of fact, comes from federal governments, from different ministries within Germany. Of course, the Ministry of Education and Research, maybe the Ministry of Economic Affairs, even foreign ministers, different ministries can support research in Germany. European Union does support and finance research in Germany, and globally we have many, many more institutions who support. Usually, these institutions do not directly distribute the money. They are having agents who distribute the money. Some of the most important for sure is the German Research Association, DFG, Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft. DFG's major task is to distribute research funding. A different institution, but in terms of money, much smaller, would be DAAD, my institution. We are distributing scholarships to international students and German students who go abroad. Or Alexander von Humboldt Stiftung Foundation would be a similar institution, a much smaller but very, very renowned institution. They are also supporting postdoc research, young, very talented international researchers. So they take government money and distribute it for the government. We are the experts in finding our clientele, the young, talented researchers. Well, where are these researchers going to work? Very often at one of these large research institutions. The most famous ones are Helmholtz Association, Leibniz Association, Max Planck Association, or Fraunhofer Institute. But there's actually many, many more. I just put a couple of different logos, but we have hundreds of different kinds of little research institutions. Then, of course, we have the different universities, just a few logos of different universities. There's more than 140 universities who train PhD students. And then we have industry. So if you, for the first time, look at the German research landscape, you will see something like this. So many different institutions who are all somehow involved in different research programs. They all can have their own scholarship programs. Very confusing. Well, actually, this is good news because we have such a very highly developed research landscape in Germany. Many institutions, but of course, many different networks, many different organizations are all collaborating in different ways. Okay, so universities are the most important institutions if you do research in Germany. Altogether in Germany, we have roughly 400 universities, and roughly 150 universities are authorized to confer doctorates, to train PhDs. In Germany, we have a very high rate of international PhDs. More than 20% of the PhD candidates in Germany are international students. Currently, about 30,000. There's about 30,000 international PhD candidates in Germany. And these PhD candidates are supported by various different funding ways. Besides the universities, we have the different research institutions, private and public research institutions. The most important are the Big Four. We call them the Big Four: Max Planck Society, Helmholtz Association, Fraunhofer Society, and Leibniz Association. These have different institutions all over Germany, and are really leading research institutions in Germany. And many PhD students, as a matter of fact, will be trained in these research associations or societies. Okay, then if we look at how you can do a PhD, there's basically two different modes: the structured mode and the individual mode. The structured mode is a little bit easier to explain because it is very similar to what happens in the US, what happens, for example, in Taiwan, or according to my understanding, also in Singapore or Korea. In the structured mode, basically, we have graduate schools who are looking for PhD candidates. Every year, they will publish a certain profile, what kind of PhD candidates they are looking for. You will find this information on their webpage. You apply in a written form, usually an English application letter. And if they're interested in you, they'll invite you to an interview, and then you start your PhD studies there. These PhD studies tend to be cross-disciplinary or interdisciplinary, and usually you have more than one supervisor. You usually have to take part in a curriculum, and throughout usually your first year of your studies, you slowly decide on your research focus and who is going to be your main PhD supervisor. So there's two steps of application: first a written application, and then you will have an interview. These structured programs, usually all the structured programs I know of are English taught programs. And they're extremely popular, especially within amongst international students, because they are more structured. But only currently about 20% of the PhD students in Germany are taking part in structured PhDs. The much more common way of doing a PhD is directly contacting a PhD supervisor. Any regular university professor at a research-focused comprehensive university can be a PhD supervisor. So you directly can contact the PhD supervisor and ask him if you can do a PhD with him. The way how you contact him is usually you will send him a research proposal. How you are going to write this research proposal will be explained by Mr. Klein-Arendt, so I'm not going to talk about this. So basically, you have to identify a PhD supervisor, and you have to convince him that you should be taken in by him. This sounds easy, but it is not easy at all. And this will be part of what you're going to learn today. So when contacting the professor, you already have to know what kind of research you want to do. You already have to have a research proposal, so you have to be very clear about what you want to do during your research stay in Germany. This is the big difference between structured and individual programs. Structured programs give you a little bit more time to decide on what your major focus, your final focus will be. Okay, financing your PhD. Well, the good news, the greatest news is that PhD studies in Germany, even at private institutions, usually are without any tuition. There's no tuition fee if you want to study a PhD in Germany. It's completely for free all over Germany. But of course, you have to come up with your living costs. On average, international students have living costs of, we estimate, about 850 euros. In new Taiwanese dollars, that would be about 30,000 new Taiwanese dollars per month. How do you come up with your living expenses? The easiest is, of course, you pay out of your pocket or your parents finance you. You get sponsors. Well, of course, not everybody has that kind of lucky condition, and you would like to find a different way to finance it. Very often you can be financed by a German supervisor or by your host institution. So as soon as you identify your German supervisor, you should also talk about financing with him. Your supervisor can give you advice on what modes you have to get support, financial support. You can find individual funding by research, associate contracts, that is like a working contract at your research institutions, or different modes of funding. Basically, due to the type of your stay, you have different ways of funding. Depending on the duration of your research stay, the short-term fundings, if you only stay for a couple of months, up to 1 year in Germany, or long-term funding, 1 year or even more, all your research stay, your whole PhD will be done in Germany. Well, there's fellowships and grants. For example, DAAD is issuing scholarships. That would be a fellowship. So you're applying with a scholarship organization like DAAD, like my institution. You can have working contracts, for example, with your institute, with your university, and you find different ways of funding employment by industry whatsoever. There's different positions and different modes of funding. If you're a postdoc, if you're a junior researcher, if you're a junior professor, you can have different modes of funding. I'm not going to explain all the different scholarship programs by DAAD. I only want to point out the most important DAAD scholarship programs. DAAD has more than 100 different funding schemes, but I want to point out the most important funding scheme, and this is our PhD scholarship. The way how this program works is that you directly apply with DAAD. You apply online. Usually, and that is very important, the application deadline is for Taiwan, 15th of November. For Korea and Singapore, as far as I know, it is even earlier, 15th of October. You apply, and usually only 1 year later you go to Germany. So very, very long time before you start your research stay in Germany, you already have to apply. So almost 1 year prior to going to Germany, you have to apply for this research program. You apply online. And then you will have an interview, usually locally hosted, either in Singapore, Korea, or Taiwan. And the way how it works, if you get awarded this scholarship, you get a basic support, which is usually 1,200 euro per month. And on top of that, according to your situation, you can get additional funding. Especially if you live in a more expensive city, like Munich, for example, living costs are very high. DAAD can give you additional support. If your spouse, many PhD students are already married or have children, if your spouse wants to attend you during your stay in Germany, there can be additional support by DAAD. Of course, you get medical insurance for free by DAAD. So on top of the basic scholarship, according to your research needs, according to your personal needs, you can get additional funding for your family members, and so on. So a base scholarship of 1,200 plus, whatever your specific needs are. Okay, I'm going to end my presentation now because we want to hear more about how to apply. This is a link to our most important brochure, Funding Your Research in Germany. You easily find this online. There's more important links. Our presentations will be put up on our YouTube channel within 2 weeks of time. So you'll find all this information again online, and you'll also can research all this information and all these links on our various DAAD web pages. If you want to apply for a PhD position, we have different, there's different organizations who are promoting the PhD positions. None of these web pages are comprehensive. They always have a very small selection of different opportunities. As I said, you can basically ask every regular professor at a comprehensive university to be your PhD supervisor. He doesn't have to announce that he has PhD positions. You can directly contact him. Okay, if you happen to be Taiwanese citizens, you're very welcome to contact my office at info@daad.org.tw. At the moment, we are at the lockdown, but usually you also can have you can visit us in our office on Mondays and Thursdays and have consultation together with me or my colleagues. But now I really would like to hand over to my colleagues and to Mr. Klein-Arendt to talk about them.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me and see me as well. It is my great pleasure to present to you now the Technical University of Darmstadt as one of the many places in Germany where you can find excellent research conditions, and to inform you about the specific aspects of applying and then doing your PhD at our university. First of all, in the first half of this talk, I would like to introduce you to our university, to myself and my institution, to Ingenium. In the second part, I will then present to you what you have to consider when applying at TU Darmstadt. Here you can see our old main building, which is part of our university. TU Darmstadt is, it has already been said in the very beginning, among the top 9 technical universities in Germany. It is located right in the middle of Germany. It is a mid-sized town called Darmstadt, where we are located, with around 160,000 inhabitants, and only a 20-minute car ride away from the international airport of Frankfurt. So a very central position within not just Germany, but also within Europe, actually. The university itself is also middle size, with around 25,000 bachelor and master candidates from all over the world. There are approximately 2,000 to 2,500 doctoral candidates, and around 450 doctorates are awarded each year. So 450 doctorates are awarded each year, and 20% of those doctorates have an international background. Since we were founded, and that was 1877, so quite a long time ago, we have been one of Germany's most international universities, actually. We define ourselves as a European university and are committed to European values and European integration. But we have also, for a very long time, been attractive for global talents from all over the world, which we are very happy about and proud of. Attractive also because we are part of a conglomeration of over 30 research institutions in the city of Darmstadt. And that is which brought us the official title City of Science, which actually only 4 cities in Germany may carry. Because together with institutions like the European Space Operations Center and numerous non-university research organizations, for example in the field of computer science or physics, we truly offer a highly attractive and vibrant research and work environment in a metropolitan region. Our research is large scale, it is problem-based, and interdisciplinary. We're looking for relevant science for global transformations, and that involves the engineering sciences, the natural sciences, the humanities, and the social sciences. At TU Darmstadt, scientists from all of these research or science disciplines closely work together, and together we foster intensive and productive interaction also with society, with business, and politics, because it is our belief and also experience that this kind of collaboration generates effective and long-term progress towards, and that is now very important, towards sustainable development worldwide, because that is the contribution that we with our research would like to provide. So the take-home message of this slide is, in my opinion, in our opinion, TU Darmstadt is a so-called hidden champion and a great place to do your research. And if you want to learn more about us, you can follow the QR code and skip through our website. The take-home message of this slide is that the TU Darmstadt has a support agency for all doctoral candidates. This support agency is called Ingenium at TU Darmstadt, and this is where I work. I did my PhD in literary studies, and I am now responsible for consulting. So I'm a consultant for prospective and for current doctoral candidates. And again, you find the link to our website here in the QR code. We have three central pillars of support. We provide information and counseling on all the topics that have to do with applying for and doing a doctorate at TU Darmstadt. And this is mainly my area of expertise, because I also offer individual counselings for candidates with regard to their scientific career planning. The second pillar is the qualification pillar. So we offer numerous qualification workshops to learn skills like time management, presentation skills, academic writing skills, teaching skills, everything that is also important for a scientific career. And once you are a doctoral candidate at our university, you may benefit from those free workshops and free offers at our university. And the third pillar, so we have information and counseling, then we have qualification, and then we have networking, which means that we also try to connect you among yourselves, so among your scientific peer groups, but also to introduce to you working fields beyond your doctorate, so get you together with companies where you can work at after your doctorate, or inform you and connect you with other professors if you want to pursue a scientific career. What we do not do, and this is important to know, is we do not place doctoral candidates, and we do not support you with your applications in a very detailed way. This has to be done by the applicants themselves. What we do offer is to give some general advice on how the kind of application works at TU Darmstadt, and like in this presentation today, give you some hints, but the rest has to be done by you. Another important piece of advice is that applications must fit the research profiles of our university and of the supervisor. Some things that I am saying in my presentation, they're kind of reaffirming what Mr. Klein-Arendt has already said. So just to reassure you that in the practical case of TU Darmstadt, yes, it is true what has been said in the previous presentation. So applications must fit the research profiles of a university and of the favored supervisor. At our university, we have three main areas of research. Research initiatives have to match at least roughly with one of these fields, which is why I will briefly outline them so you can check already at this point whether you would fit or not. In energy and environment, so E&E, we consider energy transition and climate change. Earth and people need cutting-edge research, and we think in new ways and are committed from the idea to innovation in many important areas. For example, new concepts and materials for energy conversion and storage. Our second research field is information and intelligence. In the digital and global age, the intelligent and responsible use of information, data, and knowledge is of fundamental importance. For example, we are researching artificial intelligence, we are researching data transfer in intelligent and resilient networks, and we value the responsible handling of data. Furthermore, we study the adaptive and intelligent behavior of people and machines to move the economy and the production of tomorrow. And thirdly, within the research field matter and materials, it drives us to understand matter and develop materials. For example, in nuclear science, we explore what happens when neutron stars merge waves and heavy chemical elements. Another example is we are researching numerous exciting and innovative materials and processes that signify a material turnaround and make the technology turnaround possible, e.g. in 3D printing or memristor technology. So generally, we do fundamental research with a high level of applicability, meaning we clarify fundamental issues and translate scientific findings into technical and social processes. So our research is not just profound, excellent, and transformative, and therefore attractive for curious students, creative young researchers, and excellent scientists from all over the world. And the matching with these research areas is only one aspect that is important for a successful application. My second piece of advice is to inform yourselves about the research activities of the departments. A department is the same as a faculty. A department consists of several professorial chairs with specific research focuses, and those professors are the most important figures in the application process, as you have learned already. And I will briefly introduce them now to you. We have 13. One is law and economics, history and social science, human sciences, mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, materials and earth sciences. So the first was rather the human sciences. The second color, so the green color, is more natural sciences, and now the blue is engineering. So we have civil and environmental engineering. We have architecture. We also have a very huge department of mechanical engineering, our biggest department. Also quite big is the electrical engineering and information technology department. And also the computer science department. And this is very important for you to keep in mind. The right to award doctorates or PhDs lies within the responsibility of the departments. only they have the right to award doctorates in order to ensure that the technical quality of doctoral theses is high. So in the previous presentation it was said that, of course, and this is still true, the professors are the main contact persons and those are the ones supervising your PhD. And without a professor nothing can happen. That is, of course, still true also for TU Darmstadt. But what I mean when I say that the departments award doctorates is that the overall formal processes revolving around the doctoral process that is administered by the departments. To orient yourself and to find a suitable supervisor at TU Darmstadt, you would need to look at the department websites under the categories of research and gather information on research activities and the professors who work there. So you go to the websites of your department and you read through the web pages of your matching department to find more information on the overall procedures, on the requirements. I will talk about this a little later once again, and about the profiles of professors and their research activities. So that is where you actually learn am I in the right department? Is this my research environment where I can find a suitable supervisor? And this has to be done by you yourself and is considered the first important step towards a PhD. The QR code here leads you to the overall overview of our departments, and from there on you can search through the websites to find the correct spot for you. As has already been said in the former presentation, universities have different structures and offers with regard to a PhD. For example, the formalities may differ, the requirements may differ, or the research cultures may differ. And even though it might be difficult, because also some information may not be available in English, try to inform yourself in advance about the specificities of the university where you would like to apply. For example, at TU Darmstadt, we have a strategy for the promotion of early career researchers, and in that strategy we define the doctoral phase as well as the subsequent qualification phases at TU Darmstadt. And the QR code here will lead you to the strategy right away. And one definition you can read there goes like this. In the doctoral phase, doctoral candidates work on their theses, which should be completed in a suitable period of time. The doctorate is understood as the first stage of a professional in which the doctoral candidates gain qualifications for various career goals. TU Darmstadt would like to acquire university students with outstanding academic performance and suitable academic progress to undertake a doctorate. Demonstrated qualification in the respective subject or research topic and an interest in academic work are equally relevant for admission. The essence of this definition is that we are expecting our doctoral candidates to be excellent students, to show a passionate interest in and qualification to do independent scientific work. Motivation is regarded as highly important as well. And also, doing a PhD in Germany requires a strong self-reliance and independency. You will be regarded not as a PhD student, but above all as a first-stage researcher with a high degree of independence. The majority of our doctoral candidates follows an individual doctorate. You probably still have in mind the differentiation between an individual and a structured PhD. TU Darmstadt offers both. But structured PhDs are possible depending on the research topic and the availability of free spots. At our university, we have structured programs in the areas, for example, of computational engineering, energy science and engineering, life science engineering, material sciences, or urban studies, to name just a few. And if you are interested in learning more about the structured programs, I have to admit it is not very transparent to get this information from our website. You can also contact me, and you'll find the contact details later in the presentation. Another specificity at our university is that most candidates have a position as a research assistant or research associate at a professorial chair. So only a very small number actually of candidates finance their PhD with a scholarship or with external money. In most research fields, the research groups are very international and the working language is English. You therefore need very good English skills to do your PhD, and apart from that, it is at least helpful to learn a little bit of German, because some formal things are still only available in German, like legal documents, for example. Another example is that some of the formal information on the websites of the departments is still not available in English, which is not very inviting, I have to admit, but that lies in the realm of the departments. So at Ingenium we are fluent in English, and when you have questions you can always also contact me. What is true for all, and that has also been said before, is that a doctorate is tuition-free, and that also is true for TU Darmstadt. Now, for the second part of the presentation, let's look at what you have to do before you apply. First of all, here I am. So if all of what I've just explained to you and introduced to you with regard to our university, if that sounds attractive to you and you would like to apply for a PhD at our university, I would ask you to consider the following things before you get started. Inform yourselves about the specific requirements for a PhD at TU Darmstadt. And here, be aware that there are two requirements you need to fulfill. The first are general requirements like a university degree. The second is subject specific. So each research subject or discipline may have specific requirements for accepting PhD candidates. So there's two documents that it would make sense to consult. Two set of requirements and two documents. The first, the more general, is the general doctoral regulations. You will easily find them on the Technical University of Darmstadt websites. In them you will read, for example, that the conditions for acceptance as a doctoral candidate are a master's degree from TU Darmstadt that qualifies the student to complete a dissertation in the intended subject area. It goes on to say that this needs to comprise a total of 300 credit points CP according to the ECTS system. Paragraph saying a degree from a foreign university for an equivalent study program that qualifies the student for a doctorate in the country where the university degree was awarded. So that means that once you have a master's degree, a completed master's degree that would qualify you for a doctorate in your own home country, it would also qualify for admission for a doctorate at TU Darmstadt in general. That is the general understanding, and your degree will then be assessed and compared to a German one in an assessment procedure. The second document that is very important as well is that of the department. So again, the departments are very important in the overall process. The departments have subject-specific requirements that you should know. So for example, if your PhD is located in the field of computer science, you would be well advised to read the specific regulations of the computer science department on top or in addition to the general requirements. This doctoral regulation from the department might demand a minimum grade, for example. Here you will also learn if you need to apply with a very extensive research proposal or exposé or not. So this kind of information may be contained in this specific regulations. So, in fact, the most important source of information is actually the department website. That is the take-home message of this slide as well. Please check before you apply if you meet the requirements and if there are specific things you need to prepare for an application. Everything that has been said in the previous presentation is still correct, also in the case of applying at TU Darmstadt or writing to supervisors at TU Darmstadt. But please keep in mind that from university to university there might be some specificities that you should know in order to make a well-informed first impression when you write. Some departments like the mechanical engineering or the architecture department, they even provide detailed guidelines for candidates on how to prepare an application. So it is very important that you know if there are such guidelines or not, and if not, then you follow the guidelines that have been presented to you in the previous presentation. The last point here before you apply, suitable supervisor, find a suitable supervisor. We have talked about this already on the department websites. You also find information about the professors and their research focuses that you will need for your application. So in the nutshell, you need to do some research before you can actually do your research. There is no placement of candidates by our university. It may be the case for other universities though. So again, inform yourself. And what I've just said, it applies to individual doctorates. In structured programs, the structure is more or less the same but different. In structured programs, please also inform yourselves individually. So every structured program, for example, the Graduate School of Life Science Engineering may have completely different procedures and requirements than the Graduate School of Energy Science and Engineering. So again, here you need to look for individual information on the respective websites of the programs before you can apply there. Now we come to our second but last slide. There are two ways by which you can gain a place as a doctoral candidate. The first option we haven't talked about yet, that I am mentioning now, is you can always also apply for job postings on the TU Darmstadt career website. So basically every German university will have a career website where all the postings are summarized, and where you can see if there are job opportunities as a research assistant or a research associate. This is basically the same. It's just the one university uses this phrase and the other university uses another phrase. Because if you apply for a job as a research assistant or research associate, the doctorate will be part of this job profile. So this is also one way of actually gaining a spot or a place as a doctoral candidate. In that case, you will work for your professor, perform certain duties in the areas of research and teaching, but you will also have time to prepare your doctoral thesis and to do your research. The QR code here leads you to our career website. As there are clustered again by department. So if you look for a PhD position in chemistry, you need to check on the website if there are free positions available. If so, please check if you match the profile that is searched for, and if you do match, please follow the specific instructions in the posting and apply then as it is asked for in the posting itself. Usually you send your CV and certificates and a letter of motivation, but this will all be outlined in the job posting, and there will usually be a contact detail. That contact detail is the leading professor, and this would also be the person supervising your doctorate then. If there are no positions available, or if you are not looking for a position as research assistant, then you follow the procedure that has been outlined in the previous presentation, which means you get in contact with a professor of your choice and ask for a supervision of your doctorate with a research proposal. So you don't apply for a concrete job, but only for supervision. And in that case, the funding needs to be clarified with the professor once the supervision was accepted, because once the professor has accepted your supervision, you could probably, for example, discuss if there will be positions available in the future that you can apply for, or you could discuss to apply for a scholarship, or another opportunity, of course, you already did apply for a scholarship. Maybe you've already gained a scholarship from your home country, for example, and now all you need is a supervisor. Then, of course, you also inform your professor about the existing scholarship and that you are not looking for funding. In many cases, you do, in fact, apply with your own research topic. So in those cases, you do need a research proposal as it was outlined. In some cases, that is even expected, like in the humanities, the social sciences, in architecture, or in the natural sciences. However, in other areas like mechanical engineering or other engineering disciplines, you don't necessarily need to have a concrete topic or a research proposal yet. But this is not quite transparent. So you will probably not find concrete information on the website of the supervisor. So what I would recommend to you is to have a research proposal as a backup in your mind, because it's also very important to be interested in the dissertation, in the doctoral project that you're doing, but it could also be that your supervisor suggests another project to you. And this can happen at our university, in fact, that a supervisor will develop a topic in the process with you in the course of the first year, for example. So there's no strict regulations. That's why my suggestion would be have a research proposal ready to send away. And if you are also open to accept other topics, then you're on the safe side. Then I would briefly summarize some of the advices that were also given in the previous presentation. If you want your application to be successful, please consider the following advices. Don't apply uninformed. Know the research activities of the university and of the professor beforehand. Know the regulations of the university and of the department, the regulations for admission in that case. Decide if you prefer an individual or a structured PhD. Don't send mass emails to the whole staff. Make sure you write to the right person, namely a professor of your research field. Get information on the research, the publication and teaching activities to really make sure he or she is the right person to supervise you. And in your application, convince the reader, in that case the professor, of your aptitude. This means all the points that have been made in the previous presentation apply here as well. Argue why you are excellently qualified for a doctorate. Show your motivation and your passion for research. Make it error-free and complete. Find the right balance of information, not too much, not too little. Come to the point quickly. And if possible, let your application be proofread. That's also very helpful. With these advices, I have come to the end of my talk. I hope you have gained valuable information, and I also hope that you consider TU Darmstadt for your next career step and eventually become a doctoral candidate at our university. I would very much, please be invited to contact me if you have questions. And for that, I would like to hand over now to Josef Goldberger. Thank you for your attention.
So, now we are opening our Q&A session. Students finally have the opportunity to ask questions in the chat below. Please just write out your questions and I will ask Dr. Klein-Arendt and Dr. Müller. But first, of course, I would like to thank you so much. Dr. Müller, Dr. Klein-Arendt, I was thinking during your presentation, I was thinking about the time when I myself was working on my research proposal and I was applying for doing a doctorate in Germany. And to be honest, I would have saved so much time if I had heard this presentation during that time. So much time and energy would have been saved, but unfortunately it was too late. I had to learn it the hard way. You are lucky you had the chance to get the information firsthand from our experts. I would also like to ask some questions. Dr. Müller, one general question about TU Darmstadt. TU Darmstadt is a very international university. Do you know what is it about the percentage of international students in your PhD programs?
About 20% of our doctoral candidates are international, and then of course it very much varies from department to department. So this is the overall percentage of international candidates.
And I have one question for Dr. Klein-Arendt before I switch over to the questions from our attendees. One thing you did not elaborate about too much was, according to your opinion, what is the ideal length of a research proposal? The longer, the better, or what is your recommendation? How should you organize a research proposal and how much text should you provide?
Basically, a research proposal should be short. As I already said, your addressees won't have that much time to read through a proposal. A professor won't take half an hour or an hour to read and to understand the proposal. He or she might reserve 5 or 10 minutes or so, so your proposal should be short. There might be guidelines on that, but if not, if you do not have guidelines, short means 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, or something like that. And please, within these few pages, try to assume a few correct proportions. For example, the state of research will have the greatest length. When you have a 2-page proposal, I think the research or the state of research will take maybe 1 page of space, but please see when you have a 2-page proposal to write that your own solution part will have enough space as well. For example, the aim, the benefits of the result, and you will also have to include the reference list. So if you have 40 references, that will eat up your 2 pages. So try to be as short as possible, but as precise as possible. The state of research can be the longest chapter or section, but don't make it too long so that the other sections suffocate under the weight of the state of research.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much for elaborating on that issue. So now many questions came in already, and I think we still should take some time to answer these questions. Hopefully you still have time to stay with us. Certainly you will be hungry already. So Dr. Müller, one student is asking explicitly on TU Darmstadt, what role, what function do have grades? How important is it to have good grades when applying for a PhD at TU Darmstadt?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for Jen. It's not an easy one-sentence answer I can give here, unfortunately, because what is generally required is an excellent certificate, in a sense that you need to be among the top students of your program. But this differs from, kind of the grading differs from country to country, and it also differs from research discipline to research discipline. What the expectations are explicitly. This is why I'm saying that the general entry gate for a doctorate is a master's degree, and it should be a very good master's degree in comparison to your program. And what then happens is that you need to look at the departments again and figure out if the department actually demands a minimum grade or not, because not all departments do that. And in case if they don't, it's just about the research proposal, the quality of a research proposal that will secure you a spot or not. And in cases where you do have a minimum grade or specific qualifications that you need to bring, then this will be stated in the specific regulations of the department, and this is why you need to check with the departments before. So grades may play a role or may not. It depends on the discipline.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question would be maybe more general, but maybe we still answer it in terms of TU Darmstadt, so Dr. Müller. If there's no vacancy announced on the webpage of an institute, can you still contact the professor?
Yes, definitely. If there's no job posting available, then you just apply for a regular doctorate place. So everything that has been said in the presentation, in the first big presentation, because what then happens is the professor might not have funding, but he will be interested in your proposal nevertheless. And the two of you then can discuss what kind of funding opportunities are there in the future, maybe also. So you don't necessarily have to have a job as a research assistant. Have a job as a research assistant to fund your doctorate, but you don't necessarily have to. And if there's no vacancies on the website, you still contact the professor and try to convince him of your qualification and of your research topic and your proposal, and you might be lucky to get a chance then for a position, yes.
That is also my understanding. So every professor at the comprehensive university can take in students, and very often they do not announce that they're taking in students. You just directly can contact them.
Yes.
So very often there's no structured way of announcement. Okay, maybe a very specific question. One student is asking a question to Dr. Klein-Arendt. One student is asking about the subject line in the email. Should there be only keywords, or should you combine them into one complete sentence? Is there an advice on that question?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I think a subject line is not the right place to insert a whole sentence. Just leave it by keywords. But these keywords must describe the topic of your planned PhD properly. Don't make the subject line too long. Not 15, 20 words or something like that. Please leave it with, let's say, 10 words, something like that. No longer. It does not make sense. And but when you are hitting the right solution with your keywords, that's really sufficing to wake interest from the side of the addressee.
Mm-hmm. Maybe another question which I also would like to answer you, Dr. Klein-Arendt. A student is asking about the value of a gap year. He's considering to do a gap year, maybe do another degree program, master's degree program, before starting his PhD program. Is this going to have a positive influence or a rather negative influence on his application for a PhD? So in between finishing his master's degrees, he might do another master's or another internship. He will have a gap of 1 year.
Yeah, as I already
see
said,
this kind of life decision.
Yeah, as I already said, you should not have a gap in the academic CV. So fill that gap, and there are quite a lot of opportunities to do a work which might already point to the PhD project. So a gap year is not a bad idea. Not another master's degree. This would take too long, I think. But for example, to do an internship at a laboratory, for example. But anything which could further qualify you for your big plan to do a PhD project. This makes always sense, but try to relate your internship or the measures you are taking towards the topic, the envisaged topic of your PhD thesis.
Mm-hmm. One of our attendees is already thinking ahead. The person is interested about opportunities after finishing the PhD. What kind of opportunities are there for a postdoctorate? Of course, every institution is a little bit different. Maybe we can answer that question in terms of TU Darmstadt, Dr. Müller. Mm-hmm. What opportunities do you offer to your PhD students after they finish their PhD? Do they have postdoctorate study programs at TU Darmstadt?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for that question. Yes, once you have a doctorate at a German university, and particularly also in the case of TU Darmstadt, then you have several opportunities. With a German doctorate, it's actually quite common to apply for many career paths. One career path can be scientific, and the other one can also be in a position in industry, for example, or in other non-university institutions. So actually a great number of doctoral holders do not pursue a scientific career. That is very typical for Germany and is also very typical for engineering disciplines, that you have a doctoral title, but then you find an excellent position in industry, in the research and development sector, for example, but also in management careers. So basically everything is open to you, and we at TU Darmstadt make sure that we also try to qualify our candidates also for those non-scientific career paths. And the scientific career path then involves that you, after your doctorate, can apply for postdoc positions. So everything in Germany is not so much structured in the sense that there's study programs, but what it means is you then are not just a first stage researcher, but already an experienced researcher, and you will be able to look for postdoc positions either at our institution or at other universities in Germany or abroad, or at non-university research organizations or in industry. So basically everything is theoretically possible, and what we do and what a lot of universities in Germany also do is we offer counseling with regard to the career paths and what you need in order to qualify for a postdoc and then eventually also for a professorship. So a lot of consultation is offered in the German university context.
So as there's still many questions I would like to ask, if we can add maybe some other 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If that is okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. Then Dr. Klein-Arendt, I would like to ask you one question from one attendee. The person seems to be a little bit confused about the role of the advisor. What does it mean to have an advisor? Does he decide, does he approve if he gets the doctoral position, or does he still have to apply with other institutions? Advisor, he probably means as a PhD supervisor. As soon as he has identified a PhD supervisor who is willing to take him in, is that it? Or is there more steps to be done? Dr. Klein-Arendt.
I didn't get the question right, I think. Yeah?
Okay,
maybe I can... Maybe I can answer it because at least for TU Darmstadt I can, and but it is more or less the same for other universities as well. So once you have a supervisor, that's not it. Unfortunately, there is still a formal assessment procedure with the university administration that you need to go through. So the first and most important step is you find a supervisor. Once you have a supervision agreement with that supervisor, you still, in our case, need to officially apply as a doctoral candidate at a department. Again, departments are the most important players here on the field. And you there apply once very officially with your certificates, with a CV, with your research proposal, and with your supervision agreement. And then your complete application is evaluated and assessed by a board that is formed within the department, consisting of professors and mostly of professors, but also of other doctoral candidates and even students. And this doctoral board will evaluate and assess all applications and then decide on the basis of the application, are all formal requirements met and can we accept the candidate or not. It very seldomly happens that with a supervision agreement you do not get accepted, but a formal process still needs to be done.
And once you have
maybe I can add a little bit.
Sorry, I just wanted to add something. Once you have been admitted, you have to apply for the appropriate visa. This is another field of research. You have to get appropriate visa, not so much a tourist visa or something like that, but a residence permit and all kinds of that. And so this is quite a way to go, but this is the same in each and every country, I think. Sorry, Dr.
I would also like to add something on the topic. So my experience is that usually German professors tend to be very powerful. If a supervisor is accepting a student, usually the board is not going to contradict the professor. That would be really an exception. So for example, even for DAAD scholarships, all we want to see is that a supervisor is willing to take you in. He's agreeing to take you. For us, that is proof enough that you will be accepted to Germany. It really very, very rarely happens that you still get denied. For visa, it's different with different countries. I only can talk or have an impression with Taiwan. And there it's also the same thing. If the supervisor is taking you in, if he's giving you an official invitation, the visa is never really a big problem. The only problem there is that sometimes the procedures are very slow. It can take 6 weeks, 7 weeks till you finally receive your visa. But basically, if you have your supervisor on your side, then it is done. There's a similar question about a student who wants to actually reach out to a company. Is the better strategy to reach out directly to the company and try to find a supervisor that way, or should he first find a supervisor? I don't know, Dr. Klein-Arendt, would you like to answer that question? The question is trying to contact the company first or the supervisor first?
You should have, I do not have the one answer to that question. First, make sure that you are searching for one of the bigger companies in Germany, because they are sometimes offering their own PhD programs. But as Dr. Goldberger already said, this is not enough. You need one supervisor at the university, because only a university can grant a PhD title or a doctorate. I would suggest that first you are looking for one opportunity in a company, because it is sometimes very, very difficult when you are, for example, apply at Volkswagen or at Beiersdorf or at one of the bigger companies in Germany. You will see it is not very easy, because they tend to admit only so-called high potentials, or what they think are high potentials are, and it is very, very difficult to get there. And once you have got one permission by a company to work there as a PhD candidate, you can well apply at the university, because then you have really something to show. Yeah, you can say, I'm bound in a laboratory. I'm a member now of a bigger company, which has lots of opportunities, lots of potentials, and so you can well step into a university and say, okay, I need a PhD supervisor here, but the main job will be done in the company. But one warning: companies frequently will let you sign contracts. And please be aware that some companies try to buy your PhD results or something like that. Yeah, some say, okay, we are funding you here in that in our company, and all what you are producing as results are a property of the company, because they pay for that. And then you will get into conflict with the legal structures of doing the PhD. Yeah, because some companies tend to say, okay, we publish or use these results, but please be sure that your PhD results are never ever published before you did not pass the PhD exam and have published your PhD thesis yourself. So please be a bit careful, and as soon as you think you have found one place at the company, at one step to your university and ask there for supervision. Never start a PhD without having such a supervision, because a professor at the university can also protect you from any bad consequences when working in a company. So these are my 50 cents in respect to that question.
Okay, this is probably very, very worthwhile advice. Only this kind of advice already makes it worthwhile to listen to this kind of talks. My colleagues in Germany must be very hungry now. So I would like to ask out the very last question. But the colleagues in Germany started at 12 o'clock. They haven't had lunch yet. So please, everybody understand, there's so many more questions, but maybe later on we can resolve them per email or in other ways. And this question, I would like to take a few questions together. It's about emails that get not answers. Students complain that they send out many emails, they don't get answers. What are they doing wrong? How could they improve it? They are waiting for 1 week already, or more than a week, no reply. What can they do? Should they reply another email? What is your advice, Dr. Klein-Arendt, maybe?
This is the old and big problem. As I said at the end of my presentation, never give up. Nobody has succeeded yet to secure a PhD place or a PhD supervisor after one try. There are candidates who tried dozens and dozens of times after they succeeded. But this is the same in each and every country. So if you send out an email and maybe a research proposal, and you did not get a reply, don't think at once that you are not good enough, that your research proposal does not meet the standards or something like that. In 95% of all cases, the professor is simply overloaded with work. As I already said, professors get 20, 30, 40, 50 emails per day. What can they do? Yeah, so if you did not get an email reply after, let's say, 2 or 3 days, ask again. And if you do not get a reply, then try another one, please. Yeah, and one more a tip on information. We are always talking here about professors. I'm an associate professor, not a full professor, in German, a Privatdozent. These associate professors are also entitled to supervise PhDs, not only full professors. The old and very important professors are overloaded with work. Try to find others, maybe younger ones, younger associate professors who might be at the beginning of their career. They might have some space left to accept you as a PhD student. Yeah, so be a bit variable.
Okay, Dr. Klein-Arendt, Dr. Müller, thank you so much for having you here. Thank you to all the participants who stayed all the way for 2.5 hours presentation. I was very hesitant to have such a long event, but obviously many people are very interested in the topic. So thank you so much. Welcome to Germany. See you in Germany. Good luck for having a good time doing your PhD in Germany. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Good luck, and see you hopefully one time in Germany.